Welcome to Sightline. Today we're going to talk to Mr. Connor Vinnicombe, PR and a fundraising coordinator at Lotus Children's Center in Mongolia. So thank you very much for coming here on our show.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
So you work as a volunteer at the Lotus Children's Center, which is a home to over 70 vulnerable children in Mongolia. And I've heard that an Australian yoga teacher who came in Mongolia in 1993 founded this center. And it's been running for 25 years now. And so how can you describe about this center for our viewers? And also, what do you think are the initial reasons the center was founded?
Well, as you said, Didi first came in 1993 as a yoga teacher. And during her time living here in the first couple of years, she discovered the real need of care of particularly children that were living on the streets, but also families that were living on the streets in poverty at that time. So she started to provide some care just herself, some basic food and medical care to them just out of her apartment where she was living. And so it was from that Lotus was born, really. And so 2 years after arriving in 1995, Lotus was founded by Didi. And since then it's grown a lot. So into the early sort of 2000s, there were around 150 children in the care of Lotus. Since then, the numbers have gone down. So as you said, now we've got just over 70. So they've halved in the last sort of 15 years or so, which is a good sign actually of things in Mongolia, because these days there is not such a great need for that sort of care, although the need is still very much there.
So you're saying that the Mongolian economy got better, so that the need for like a bigger center like this is like decreased.
Yeah, I think so. I think also the establishment of better state-organised social services and care has also meant that the role of a private organisation such as Lotus has taken more of a backseat.
Okay, so it was founded in the early 1990s, and that was the year, that was the period that Mongolia has switched to the market economy, and lots of people became like poor. Can you tell us about how the operation can run? Is it true that it's fully funded by the donations from generous people and organizations?
Yeah, absolutely. So we don't receive any funding from the Mongolian government. We're completely funded by private donations and sponsors. And that's really to run our whole program, from our sort of local staff base to all of the running costs, the food and the utility costs of the centre, and the wider things that we try to do as well, the projects, as we try to develop the centre and provide a whole range of types of care for the children, not just the primary care that
not just accommodation.
Yeah, so not just accommodation. Obviously, those things are very important and they're the priorities. But we try to put an emphasis on enabling the children to be more independent when they leave Lotus in the future, to try and sort of get out of the poverty cycle that they unfortunately fell into at a young age, so that they are able to flourish as citizens themselves beyond sort of Lotus life.
Okay, so let's define the Lotus Children's Center a bit more specifically. It said that your children helps vulnerable and abused children, but also I've also heard that you helped disabled children. So what kind of children can benefit from the care that you're giving?
So the children in our care range from 1 year up to 18 years old, and yeah, some of them do have a disability. Some of them have got very important emotional needs that need to be addressed as well. They've all gone through very challenging times in the earliest parts of their life, so it's a huge range of children that we've got and the care that we have to offer. So, I mean, the children that can benefit from Lotus are basically any of the children that need it. We don't have a criteria of children that we allow to come and live at Lotus, and particularly these days it's the local authority that decides when children need to be placed into our care. And we're never going to say no to a child that needs our care. We always will accept children that need it.
Okay, so you already mentioned that the center is not funded by the government, and also it's not like a religious center. So if some of our viewers want to donate to your center, how can they make donations, and what kind of volunteer works can they do?
Well, we collect financial donations just straight into our local bank account. We do a lot of fundraising events as well throughout the year, which has obviously been a bit more challenging this year with the COVID situation. Yeah, so we haven't been able to do the same events that we usually do. But yeah, I would suggest that people sort of find us on Facebook and follow us on there. That's the best way to keep up to date with our activities, our fundraising activities, and what our needs are as well. So it's not just money. It might be that there's a specific item that we need or some things that we're collecting. For example, at the moment we're collecting school supplies to get our kids ready to go back to school and things like that.
So I saw the wish list section in which you put all the necessary things at the moment, and if the possible donors, they can look at the wish list, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the contact details are on our website and on Facebook as well to get in touch, whether people who are in Mongolia now that can buy those items for us and deliver them, or we can pick them up, or people can just make the financial donation and then we can buy the items, whichever is easiest for the donor, really.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so thank you. And about the volunteer works, and also I've seen that there are lots of vocational trainings going on, and also the other extracurricular activities and the language courses that are being taught by volunteers. But this year we are facing this difficult time. Yeah. And how has that activity been changed by the COVID-19?
Yeah, so we, particularly in the summer, long summer when the children are on holiday, we rely a lot on volunteers to help us run our summer program, to keep the children busy and entertained, but also help to keep them learning things over the summer as well. So a couple of years ago, we built on site a vocational skills training facility where we've got a bakery, a sewing room, a mechanics garage, a carpentry room, and a small beauty salon as well. So different areas where children can learn different skills. And we like to bring in skilled volunteers that can run workshops for the children in those areas. And that's really part of, as I said before, we're really keen to give the children the skills and the experience to be independent when they leave from Lotus, so they're able to get a good job or to go on to further training. So that's why we run those programs. But as you said, with this year, with the COVID situation, we haven't been able to welcome any international volunteers from overseas. So it's been a much bigger challenge. We have sort of inspired by schools' online learning. We've been doing some online volunteering as well. So some of the regular volunteers that have been to Lotus before and would usually come every summer, they've been doing some online workshops with the children. So we've still had some bakery classes and some dance classes and different things going on over the summer.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's great news that you can still going on those trainings and courses. Okay, and I want to dig into the educational part a little bit more, because I've read this testimonials by previous volunteers at your center, and he said that he was impressed by the language abilities of your children, and lots of kids spoke English very well, and some of them spoke very good French. So obviously you put lots of attention to the education that the kids are receiving. So what can you share more about this?
Yeah, well, as I said, education is really the key to the children growing up to have happy and successful lives beyond Lotus. So we put a big emphasis on that in our fundraising and in our projects. And a number of the children are able to attend private schools and international schools in the city, thanks to different sponsorship and scholarship agreements that we have.
And can you give me the percentage of the kids who are going to private schools?
About half of the children that are at school age are going to private schools. Yeah.
And it is either by scholarships from that school or that sponsored by the donors, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we have discussions with various schools, and some of them are able to offer full scholarships, some are able to offer partial scholarships, and then we have private sponsors that are able to sponsor the education of individual children as well.
I was also very impressed by the previous projects that you've had and the facilities that you built at the Gachuurt Center, which you're housing the kids right now. So there were two big greenhouses and also play areas. And what can you share about the other facilities and the previous projects that you held there?
So the biggest projects that we've undertaken this year are the greenhouses, as you mentioned, and another project which will be finished within the next couple of weeks is we've built a small solar farm on site. So we've got a large number of solar panels so that we can generate our own electricity. And those projects are really sort of looking towards the future of Lotus. We've been going for 25 years, and I mean, maybe we'll go another 25 years if the need is there. And so we need to start thinking about how we can be more sustainable, both in terms of the environment, but also in terms of financially as well. So with the greenhouses that we've built this year, we're now going to be able to grow a lot of our own vegetables, which is going to save us money, but also there's an education element there, so children are able to learn those farming skills as well. And with the solar farm that we're building, we're going to be able to hopefully cut our electricity costs in half once that's up and running as well. So enabling us to be a bit more or secure our future a bit better. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so apart from those projects, and I've seen that the horse riding, and I've heard that like Didi is a fan of horse riding, and she has allowed kids to ride horses. And how many horses are there?
We've got 5 horses. Yeah.
Those horses are donated by foreign donors. So are they like Mongolian horses? Are there like other foreign horses?
They're Mongolian horses. They were bought from nearby, but it was funded by a foreign sponsor. Yeah.
So what other things they can do in their free time, like as a hobby?
Well, we have quite good sports facilities, which, as you mentioned, we've been trying to upgrade this summer. Yeah, we have a basketball court and a volleyball court as well. And we have, as I mentioned, the vocational skills centre we have, which, as I say, even though we've not been able to bring in the skilled trainers to run workshops there, that's still available for the children to use. And sometimes just learning through practicing those skills can be fun as well. So. Yeah, although it's been a long and difficult summer without having volunteers to come, and all the children obviously being stuck at home, not being able to go out, I think the children have coped pretty well. They've been able to have some fun still. We've got a large area of land out in Gachuurt, which is very useful as well, particularly in the summer. We make a lot of use of that big land, so doing the horse riding and other outdoor activities as well, yeah.
Okay, so what are some projects that you're planning for the center in the future?
Yeah, going forward, we hope to. We're still sort of focusing on this sort of sustainability aspect, so trying to make Lotus more sustainable in terms of the environment and financially, as I had said. So things that are going to make us greener, but also save us money and help us to run longer into the future. What we'd really like to do with the Vocational Skills Training Centre is be able to open that up to the community as well. So at the moment, obviously, the children that live at Lotus don't have any other family to look after them, and they're the ones that have access to all of these other facilities that we've got. But we'd like to open the facilities up to other children in the community in the future as well. That's part of our much longer term plan, but we work towards that.
Okay, so what kind of organizations do you work with to receive the kids, to find the vulnerable kids in Mongolia?
We don't work actively with other private organizations on that. So in the early days of Lotus, a lot of abandoned children were just found by sort of the police, or they were left at hospitals, or members of the public who would just bring it to Didi as Lotus was being founded. But as I said, the situation has changed a lot in Mongolia. So these days, new children are brought to us just by the local authorities, the social services, and when they decide to place the children in our care.
Okay, so you are the fundraising coordinator, and I want to ask you to name some of the very big fundraising projects that have collected lots of donations.
Yeah, so I can only speak for what I've done in the last few years that I've been involved with Lotus. There was a lot of fundraising done in the early days, which really built up Lotus from the foundations. But more recently, since we started doing regular events, so we have 2 big gala dinners every year in the spring and the autumn. Our most successful one was last autumn. We raised just over 35 million tugrik from that one night, which was really good. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to continue those events this year, but we hope to continue going forward. Perhaps next year we can start again with those. I
want to talk about your personal reasons to work as a volunteer at Lotus Center. And you came in Mongolia, and why did you choose to work Lotus Children's Center?
Yeah, I get asked that a lot. It wasn't actually my choice. I first came to Mongolia 8 years ago on a trip that was organised by my college in the UK. So the organisers of that trip chose Mongolia, and as part of their 1 month trip to the country, we spent a week at Lotus on a volunteer project there. So again, that was kind of chosen for us. So I guess it was a little bit of fate how I ended up there.
It was a destiny.
Well, yeah, I guess. So having got back home to England after that trip, I decided I wanted to try and come back and do some more. And so I came back on a few shorter trips, and then eventually decided to move here permanently. So yeah, and my passion for, I guess, for Lotus has grown, and for caring for children in that way has grown a lot as well. And having been involved for so long, it feels though I'm sort of part of that big family now. So I don't really see it as me and all of those children. I'm kind of one of their sort of brothers and sisters, kind of thing.
Yeah. So you said like brothers and sisters. So Lotus Children's Center is like a family, and in a family, you don't just really care for your children until they have grown up, and you don't like leave them permanently from your house. So what do you do with the kids that have left the Lotus Children's Center when they have reached 18 years old?
Yeah, so when they get to 18, they usually have to leave just because legally they're not children anymore, so they can't live at that children's centre. Usually they would go to university, and if that's the case, we would pay for their university fees and for their student accommodation while they're living in there, or we give them other housing support or help to find them employment or other things. So yeah, the support network continues for as long as it's needed, really, like you said, just like a normal family, but on a very big scale. Because we're very aware of, like, if the support is withdrawn before it can be, then the children will end, or young adults by that time, but they'll end up back in poverty and back in needing social care again. So we definitely try to avoid that situation, and we provide care for as long as it's needed.
Okay, so it's wonderful. And our time is coming to an end. So what final message do you have for our viewers on behalf of Lotus Children's Center?
Well, I guess a lot of people watching will have at least heard of Lotus and perhaps supported Lotus as well over the very long history that it's had already. So thank you to all of those people, because without the support of all of those people, Lotus wouldn't exist, and all of the children in our care would be in a much more difficult situation. So thank you to everyone that has supported. And if you would like to support, if you're interested, then get in touch with us. Look on our website, on Facebook. There's many ways to get in touch, and many, many ways to help as well.
Okay, so thank you very much, Mr. Connor Vinnicombe, for coming here to talk to about your wonderful children's center.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dear viewers, this was this week's Sightline interview. Today we featured Lotus Children's Center in Mongolia, which has been helping lots of vulnerable children in Mongolia. Thank you for staying tuned.